Hi everyone, it's me, New York vocalist Benita Charles, and I am here for another episode of Singing Tips. Last week we had a special singing tip where we talked about Mariah Carey's performance, and we were a little off topic, but this week we're back on topic with songwriting. For those of you who don't know who I am New York vocalist Benita Charles, and every week I give singing tips to beginner singers. Hello David, how are you? Thanks for joining. I'm back again for singing tips. Your first time on Periscope, EKB27G, welcome. Oh, hello Tracy, how are you? Thanks so much for joining me. Hi, how's it going? So normally I do singing tips on Saturday. Oh, hi EKB, how are you? But this week I had a lot going on yesterday, so I thought I'd pop on today. Oh, and I'm so glad that you finally caught me live. Yes, thank you. I'm glad you're doing well too. And thanks for the retweet, I really appreciate it. So for those of you who don't know who I am New York vocalist Benita Charles, and every week I give singing tips to beginner singers to help them become more professional. And we've had several different segments. We talked about talent, we talked about live performance, and this section we're talking about songwriting. So all of the tips in this section is all about performing and releasing your own music, and we're coming close. Hello Pavel, hi, how are you? Thanks so much for joining. So we're actually coming close to the end of this segment, because this is tip number 28, believe it or not. No, I'm sorry, this is tip number 29. We had number 28 when we talked about collaborations. But just to give you a little bit of background on singing tips, I was inspired to do these tips because I had a lot of singers come to me about they didn't know what to do. They didn't know where to start. So I thought about my experience, and I thought about the best approach, and a movie inspired me to do these singing tips in a certain way. Now that movie was called Get On Up. It came out in 2014, and it's the story of James Brown. Hi. Okay. All right. Go ahead and catch the playoffs. I know that's important. I have a hubby that loves football, so I know that's important. So yeah, catch the replay. Every week we talk about. Oh yes, you have to. You know what? The actor who played in that film, his name was Chadwick Boseman. I really honestly felt like I was watching James Brown, and the concert scenes alone made you feel like you were at an actual concert. It was just, I really think it was underrated. I mean, he really should have gotten an Oscar. It was incredible. But there was a section in that movie where James really wanted to branch out and do more like executive business decisions, and his manager said to him, "This is showbiz. You worry about the show and I'll take care of the business." And James Brown said, no, I'm going to do both. And that's exactly what he did, and he built an empire with his music. So that inspired me to design these tips, this whole segment a certain way. So we have a show part where all of the tips deal with your performance, the show, and then we have a business part where it deals with how you make money with your music. Exactly, yes, he was so serious about it, and it really, if we all approached our businesses and our music the way he did. Oh, you saw him. Oh wow, that is awesome. Yes, that he was called the greatest entertainer, or the godfather of soul, or something like that, and for a good reason, because he performed pretty much up to his death. I think he was in his 80s when he passed away. And so I designed these tips to have a show part and a business part, and we're still on the show part, but we're actually getting really close to going into the business. So in the show part, we had a section on your talent, we had a section on live performance. Now we have a section on your music, your original music, and then we're coming into a section on image. And once we get out of image, we're going to go right into the business part of show business. So we're marching along, we're churning along, and so this week, the last tip that we talked about in terms of songwriting was collaboration, and that was the last tip of 2016. We talked about why it's important to collaborate, to, get a fresh perspective on your music, to actually make more money, because sometimes you can make more money when you collaborate with someone else and you can, create a masterpiece. So this week we're going to talk about working with a producer. So now, you've written your song, you're ready to go in the studio and record your song and get it out there. So I wanted to just share my experience with working with producers. But the first thing I like to say is, how do you find a producer? Pretty much all of my producers were referrals, word of mouth. Someone knew someone. But, maybe if you don't have that option, I thought about some other ways you could find a producer. Like, for instance, studios. You can go to a studio, and I'm sure they can recommend producers. Also, there's Association of Music Producers, and they have a whole list of producers that you could look at. So that's kind of like online. But I would say the best way is referral, because it's kind of like testimonials. If somebody worked with someone, then they can vouch for someone. And pretty much, when I think back to all the producers I've worked with, they were pretty much referrals. They were from someone who knew someone else. So that's one of the best ways to find a really good producer. So moving into establishing a good working relationship with a producer. Now, when I first started working with producers, I didn't really know what that meant. Like, what is a good producer? I just kind of thought everybody was good. I was kind of going from that approach. Hi, Bosnia. Hello. Thanks for joining us. I hope I said your name right. Thanks so much for joining us. So I didn't really know what that meant, but really, technically, a good producer. Hi, how are you? Thanks for joining. Welcome to Singing Tips. We're talking about producers, because we're into the songwriting segment of Singing Tips, and we're talking all these tips are all about your original music, writing a good song, collaborating, copywriting your music. And now we're talking about, like, once you got your song together and you're looking to work with someone. Oh, good. Now, where are you guys from? Everyone, I know Tracy, you're from the UK, and David, I think you're from Ireland. So we have an international group of people here. So thank you guys so much for joining me internationally. That's what I love about the power of the internet. We're all one. Oh, you're from Holland. Oh, well, wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm actually here in the U.S. in New York City. So thank you guys. I have an international scope here. So so a good producer is someone who will try to figure out your personality and work within your personality. Oh, yes. And I didn't know that. When I first started working with producers, I kind of was like, everybody's great and I'm not, and I don't know, they know what they're talking about and they don't. And I've had some bad producers make me feel bad. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. I had a producer. The responsibility of the producer is, that's in my dealings, they have a track that I write or sing to, or I sing them the song and they write the music for me, and we go in the studio and we work together. I record my vocals with my melody, and they put together the track, the production music, like the piano, bass, drums, all of the horns, all of this, the mass productive sounds that you hear. They usually put that together, and a lot of the producers that I work with, they had great ears. Like, if I was off vocally, they would let me know, oh, that doesn't sound right, or or some of them were really good. Oh, hi, thanks for joining. Some of them were really good, where they would actually help me with the arrangement of the song, and they didn't have to do that. Like, that's not really their job, but I had some producers that were that good, and I usually kind of gave them extra money for that. But so the whole job of the producer is to help with the background songs. So they are, since you work for you, you should know what you want. Okay, exactly. Yes. Essentially, they are working for you. So I mean, it all depends on your agreement with the producer. Like if they're work for hire, you pay them money to put the song. Now if you kind of have a situation where you guys want to kind of like have more ownership, because I've had situations where producers, you know, a lot of them want that ownership. They, you know, if they put their time and energy into it, they kind of want, and the song takes off, they want to have ownership, you know, partial what it is, the copyright or ownership of that song. And honestly, that's something that you need to discuss with them before you start working. And actually, in the tip that I talked about collaboration, it was the same thing where I said you need to figure out, and everyone needs to know exactly what kind of arrangement this is. And I've had situations where I thought it was a work for hire, I paid them, but then the producer on the other end was like, no, you know, this is my work, and you know, you know, I have ownership. So really, it is something, and I mean, that's a great question, because it is something that you should discuss up front before you start working, so that everybody's on the same page and everybody knows what's going on. And a contract wouldn't be a bad idea to have something written, and you know, have your attorneys look at it, so that once you start working, there's no question about what's going on. So that's a very good point. That yes, so everyone should know exactly what this kind of arrangement is before you start working, because I've had situations where I thought it was one thing, they thought it was another, and it was a little confusion. So it would have been good if we had discussed it ahead of time. So I will just give you an example of a bad producer. I had a producer say to me one time, he was like, because I wasn't getting it, and I'm a live performer. Like, I started out with live performing on stage with plays and talent shows and in church, and so I started out. Whereas some of the artists nowadays, they start out in the studio first and then they go out. It was the opposite for me. So the studio was really different for me. So for instance, when you're on the stage, you have the audience to play off of. You have the energy, the lights. Now, when you're in the studio, it's just you. It's just your voice. Like, everything has to come out through you. And that was hard for me. It was just so different. So I had a lot of producers that were like, what's wrong with you? You know, why can't you get it? And I had this one producer say to me, well, Whitney Houston wouldn't have a problem. And it made me feel so bad. And I was just like, wow. But I didn't realize that wasn't a good producer. You know, a good producer would not have made me feel that way or said that to me. He would have tried to work with me. He would have tried to figure out, well, what is it that's you need to tap into, where that source, you know, because it's that source that, you know, that from your heart and soul, because it comes out in your voice. I've had vocals where I sounded great, the harmonies were all on point, but there was no soul, there was no feeling to it, and it sounded wooden, it sounded hollow. So a good producer is someone that will work with you and try to figure out what your vice is, and your MO, what is your, you know, what makes you tick, and they will work with that and to get the best sound. So, and like I said, I didn't know that in the beginning, but I know that now. So and I think that, yeah, so you know what, actually your question was, my bonus point was to, oh no, I'm sorry, that was not my bonus point. But that was a great question, because and I think I make a note of that, because you do need to, everyone needs to know exactly what's going on. Thanks for the hearts, guys, I really appreciate it. Actually, I do have a bonus point, and that is, make sure your song is fully written and rehearsed before you go in the studio. And I'm going to tell you something from experience. There was one particular session where I didn't do that, and we pretty much wasted a whole studio session. It was a 3-hour studio session. We wasted a whole studio session because I didn't quite know what I was doing or what I wanted, and the producer was trying to figure out what I wanted. So we spent the whole 3 hours trying to flesh it out, and it kind of turned in kind of like a jam kind of thing, and I didn't really have anything when it was done. So that was a lesson to me. That was an expensive lesson to me, to make sure my song is written. I know exactly what I want to, say. I rehearsed it. I know I don't have to rely so much on the lyrics, so that I can bring that soul out when I record, and everything, and I don't waste, because that was expensive. It was like, I think I forgot how much it was an hour, but it was expensive to not get a finished product out of that session. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I appreciate the compliment. But yeah, so that's my point. That was my whole point today, was working with a producer. To just give you a recap, to find a producer, a lot of times the best way to find a producer is by referral, and other ways you can find a producer. Other ways you can find a producer is online through the Association of Music Producers, or also from studios, because you can, if you go to a studio and ask them, like, do they know some good producers? That's another good way, to find producers, because that's where they hang out, that's where they work. And so once you find a producer, establishing a good relationship is important, and make sure that you have a good rapport together. Make sure you learn each other, and the most important thing is for that producer. A good producer will try to find out, like, how you work and what's the best way to approach how you work to bring out your best quality so you can get a good product. So that's what a good producer will do. And my story was, I had a producer that made me feel bad and made me feel like, you're terrible. Whitney Houston wouldn't have had this problem. And that's just that's not the way you get good work out of someone, and that's not the making of a good producer. And my bonus tip was to make sure that your song is complete before you go in the studio, and before you approach it to that producer. Make sure you know exactly what you want to say, the message. You make sure it's, you know the melody, you've sung it, your voice is in tip top. That's another thing. I've gone in the studio where my voice was not in tip top, and the more, it was so weird, like the more I sang it, the worse I got. So make sure vocally you're ready, you're warmed up, you make sure your voice is clear, you've got enough rest. I mean, all these basic things, you would think that you would know, but sometimes you forget. But just make sure you're fully prepared and you have a great relationship with that producer, and you will come out with a masterpiece. So that is it for me. Does anyone have any questions or anything about what I said? Oh, thank you for the heart. So yeah, that is working, now that you, hi Sam, how are you? Oh, thank you, David. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm just trying to share with these singers, like, my experience and, things that happen to me, things that I learned, to help them so that, they don't have to go through. Oh, thank you so much, Tracy. I really appreciate it. I'm so glad you caught me live finally. Yeah, so that's basically for this tip, is working with a producer. You're listening while you're working. Oh, great. Oh, so you're working today on Sunday? Oh, wow. You never stop. I really admire you. Everyone on the line. Tracy is a wonderful entrepreneur. She helps entrepreneurs. I did her 5-day business plan challenge. It was awesome. It really helped me get a perspective on my business and how I want to approach it. And these singing tips is actually a part of the artist development part of my business. Yes, it was. I highly. Why don't you put the link in? Because are you going to do it again next week? Is this continuing for another week or so? I think it's a wonderful thing. If there's anyone on here who's a business owner, and you haven't written your business plan, or you need to rework your business plan, she really goes through each aspect of the plan, and it really helps to know all of the elements, like who's your customer base, and what are you offering, what kind of products you offering, how are you going to distribute it to your product, and also that vision statement. I never really had a vision statement until I took her course, and everybody that I share this with, they love it. Let's see if I can remember offhand, because I don't think I have it with me. To create music and entertainment that ignites a fire in people to change the world. So, and everyone, so everyone, this is the bit.ly 5-day biz plan. So that is the link to her 5-day challenge, and I highly recommend it. I love it. Everyone loves my vision statement. That I actually had to share it. I did a vision board party a couple of weeks ago, and they made us all get up and talk about who we were, and I said my business, my vision statement, and I had like people come up to me after the event about singing, because they wanted to sing and all that. So it was really awesome. Yes, I really totally did, and I highly recommend it. Once you put the link in again before I close, I highly recommend it if anyone's looking to revamp their business, or change their business, or just refresh. It's an awesome thing. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Okay. You take a look. You run a startup. Oh, awesome. So hey, Tracy, you may have another person here. So awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that's what we have to do. We have to support each other, and we're all in this together. And if you're better, I'm better. So whatever we can do to help each other. I want to help these singers, and I'm working on getting together a community so that we all can, still offline or on another, besides Periscope, we can all collaborate and just keep up with each other. So thank you guys again for joining me. If you're interested in looking at any of the other tips that I discussed, you can check out my Instagram account. It's at BCM Sings. If you click on the bio, it takes you to all of the singing tip blogs. So all of these, I archive everything. It's on YouTube as well. These videos are on YouTube. Oh, you're welcome, Tracy. Anytime. Yeah, I totally highly recommend it. And to the person who said that they were interested, please check out that link and sign up. You won't regret it. And you know what I loved about it? It was only 5 days. I can do 5 days. It wasn't 30 days. It wasn't 21 days. It was 5 days. I mean, you can do 5 days. It goes by really fast, and there's a lot of information within those 5 days. So I highly recommend it. So yeah, if you want to connect with me, it's BCM Sings on Instagram. Click on the bio, and it takes you to the Singing Tip blog. Oh, you're welcome. Oh, thank you. Yes. Go to my bio. Thanks, David, so much for your support. I really appreciate it. Yes, and it takes you to the blog, so you'll see all the other tips. And I'm also working on putting it in a book so that it's all together in one place. So that's kind of like my ongoing project right now. But so anyway, guys, I want to thank you again for joining me. Have a wonderful evening. I'll see you next time on Singing Tip. And you've made this an enjoyable, to be honest with you, I know last time, David, you were on the line, but a lot of times I'm on here by myself, so it's so awesome to have people on here with me. So thank you so much for making this an enjoyable a live broadcast, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the weekend. In the U.S., we're celebrating Martin Luther King Day tomorrow. He's a civil rights leader. I'm sure you guys heard of him. So a lot of people are off tomorrow, so it's going to be like a long weekend. So I just wanted to just say have an enjoyable rest of the well, I guess it's kind of late where you guys are, because it's kind of late where I am here. So enjoy, have a great work week next week, and I'll see you next time on Singing Tips. So thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.